All right, so this is the files I have for my first grade reading class. There are 10 blocks, including August. Let's just block 2, week 1. So you can see here, I've got my planner. So this is a class that is 4 days a week, and it's usually between 50 and 60 minutes. Probably could be shortened to 45 minutes for one-on-one classes. And it covers vocabulary, a reading comprehension skill. It's different every week, a different grammar skill each week, different phonics in first grade, and blends, because first grade's really about learning how to read. In a second or third grade class, this would be more focused on writing skills development instead. And of course there is some homework each day to just reinforce the skills. Not a requirement, but it is a great supplement for what we're learning in class. Here we've got our PowerPoint, so everything is prepared for teaching online super well. Each day has its own section. Here would be some of the words that we would have practiced already previously, usually the week before, and sight words that we've practiced the week before. So there's a lot of repetition to review and add new words. So the new words we would read this week are any, had, think, and over, and there's practice for that. Each week there's 5 different vocabulary words, and in first grade they're taught in 2 different days to sort of split things up. So, and each vocabulary word comes with an image to sort of help students connect with what they're learning, and we would talk about this. Before we read our book, we would have before reading questions, short discussions to help students connect, either with the title or with the setting or the pictures. It's just a great reading skill. And then here I would read the book out loud. Again, this would be a full screen for students so they can literally read along without feeling like the book is really far away. It's one of the things that bugs me. Some weeks the books are read aloud through videos, and I've used different voices and accents, male and female. That's particularly great for so students don't get used to just one style of speaking English. There's a little bit more diversity, so that's pretty cool. And then after reading, we discuss. So each day there are different questions, and they're all based in reading comprehension skills and connecting with the story. And then this week in reading comprehension, the focus is connecting the text to ourself. So we learn about this skill, connecting with the characters in the book. So we discuss, and then this would be, for example, something that I would send home. Excuse me. There is homework, or there's printables every day. It's super organized, and it's usually, in order, so that families can print it over the weekend before classes would start. But it really helps make the class a little bit more interactive. And again, this can be adjusted depending on families' needs and desires. The grammar point this week is onomatopoeia, which a lot of people would think is crazy to teach in first grade, but it's a lot of fun. And I had students who really connected with this concept. Any videos that I show to teach a point, and they're not very common, but occasionally for this topic it's really pretty cool. They're usually between 1 and 3 minutes and very educational, and I have them downloaded so there's no ads or anything. Here we'd actually be working with the concept of onomatopoeia, connecting the words with the images, which is really neat and fun, and they have a lot of fun with this concept. So that's onomatopoeia. And then in first grade we do phonics. So this week we would be working with the N family, and each of the words is connected with an image. This is great for students who are increasing or improving their English vocabulary, but also for native speakers. and I try to differentiate between the ending sound and the beginning sound, so they're really focusing on how to read. And then of course we do blends. In this particular week we're doing the fl sound and really working with words that begin with that sound. Again, pictures really help students, either native students or otherwise, to integrate the vocabulary into their brains. And homework on Monday, for example, would be this here, working with EN family words, some pretty cool activities. This is really fun. Students would cut out the pictures and the words and then match them and glue them on a different piece of paper, so they're practicing that vocabulary. And that's day 1, so usually between 50 and 60 minutes for that class. Day 2, again, we're starting out with reviewing those sight words and adding the new ones. And vocabulary will have more discussion about the words we've already used, and then add 3 new words. And then reading, we go right into the story. We reread the story because a lot of times kids miss stuff, or they can either retell the story as well. So it's pretty cool. And then every time I read the story, there's different questions to connect with the story. Again, reading comprehension. And then we review what we learned the previous day in reading comprehension, talking about what it means to connect the text to yourself, and then going into connecting the text to the world, right? So making those connections. Here we're talking about what the world should learn. Again, reviewing more onomatopoeia, asking them to retrieve the definition. This is a different video. They're really fun. And we look at onomatopoeia through poetry. So students will hear the poem and then be asked to tell the teacher what the onomatopoeia words are, which is really kind of cool. And then again, phonics, just like before, and blends. Some weeks you'll have, or some days you'll have more work on that. Here, this is like a word brainstorm, and a coloring, or crossing out, and then homework, specifically working with two of the sight words that we're adding, and some of the phonics words. Day 3, very similar. I'm going to go a little bit faster. Here, this would be a short passage that the first grade students would read out loud, so it's just practicing those reading skills at a level that they can. Reviewing the vocabulary, but in this case they would be asked to retrieve the word, instead of telling us what the definition would be, and it really helps in putting that vocabulary. Here we have a vocabulary check. This is just practicing writing the words, remembering the words, forming the letters. And reading comprehension, again, remembering what we've studied, text to self, text to world, and then text to text, connecting it with another book that students have read. Here we actually look at Hoot and Peep and compare it with the rainbow fish. Here you can see we've got the story of the rainbow fish. It's a video. It's great, and students are asked to say how the two stories are alike and how they're different. And then we do a comprehension check. And I think this is something that a lot of schools are unfortunately leaving out. And I have students who come up in older grades and they've never actually had to answer questions about the books that they've read. So this is really a great practice. Obviously in first grade, I would read the story or the question out loud and the answers, and students would choose the correct answer. And they would be asked to produce an answer for the 5th question, and this is just an example of one. And then grammar, reviewing and practicing. I'm just going to go through this faster, and reviewing phonics. And here it would be connecting those words with the pictures, so the students are learning spelling in that way. And practicing with our blends as well. Here it's just adding the FL blend to the words, and here it's connecting the words with the images. Homework here, again, working with the 4 sight words that we're practicing that week and a sentence scramble. So students would cut out these words at the bottom, put them in order and glue them, rewrite the sentence, and then draw a picture of what the sentence says. And then day 4, things get a little bit different. We still practice those sight words. We still do a short reading. And vocabulary, they're still recalling, but here we'll do a vocabulary test, just developing that vocabulary. And then instead of the storybooks, we would work with a nonfiction text. Here we would review the vocabulary in the text before reading. It depends. Some weeks we don't need to do this. It's not so complicated, but words like dissect and regurgitate generally aren't familiar to first graders. So, and then we'll read the reader. This reader would be sent ahead of time with the printouts for the week. So if you want to read it again or have your reader read it to you to improve their reading even faster, that's great, but it's not required to print it. We'll just read it here. I go over a table of contents with students every single week so that they are familiar with, the concept of a page number has a specific topic, which is really great for later research skills. And then we read the text. On each page, I would read and then, ask questions about the text for students to either look in the text for the answer or to recall the information. It really depends. So here are those texts. And then a comprehension activity where students would, owls can, and then they'd answer it, we'd complete it. Owls have and owls are, so they're learning. And then usually on Thursday, there's something that's a little bit more creative, in this case, a guided drawing. These are great for fine motor skills and also just following directions, like attentive listening. They're developing skills that students need without them feeling like they're working hard, they're having fun. So that each step would be given to students, and then they would color it. And in first grade, second grade, third grade, all of the classes, there's writing. Obviously, in first grade, it's much more simple, and in second and third grade, it gets more complicated. Students are sometimes in third grade, for example, asked to write a summary of the book. There's a lot of specific writing skills. And then a grammar test to see what they know, and we review the phonics, and then a phonics test. So here they're actually asked to recall the spelling of the word. And then again, the same thing with the blends of the week, and asked to recall the spelling and produce it. There's not always homework on a Thursday. I would say there's a little bit more in the first 6 blocks of first grade, only because there's a lot more emphasis on word families and sight words. There are sight words in the other 2 levels as well, and reading comprehension. So that's pretty much a summary of the program. So if you've got questions, I'm here.